Russia-Ukraine war. Missile attack kills 7 in northern Ukrainian city as Zelensky visits NATO candidate Sweden. A Russian missile attack killed at least 7 people and injured 22 in the northern Ukrainian city of Chuhuiv, as President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Sweden, a potential NATO member. The attack came as Russia's military said it had destroyed a Ukrainian warship in the Black Sea. China's moon mission suffers setback after spacecraft crashes. China's first attempt to soft land a spacecraft on the moon since 2013 has ended in failure, after the craft crashed into the surface. The spacecraft, called the Chang'e 5T1, was carrying a test payload and was not expected to return to Earth. The crash is a setback for China's ambitious space program, which is aiming to become a major player in lunar exploration. US FDA approves Pfizer's maternal RSV vaccine to protect infants. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has approved Pfizer's RSV vaccine for pregnant women, the first such vaccine to be approved in the United States. The vaccine is designed to protect infants from respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, a common respiratory infection that can be serious for babies. Deadly heatwave in India and Pakistan leaves millions without power. A deadly heatwave has swept across India and Pakistan, leaving millions without power and causing widespread crop damage. The heatwave has also led to an increase in the number of heat-related deaths. The Indian government has declared a national heatwave emergency. Trump says he will surrender Thursday on Georgia charges tied to efforts to overturn 2020 election. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has said he will surrender on Thursday to authorities in Georgia, where he is facing charges of election interference. Trump is accused of pressuring Georgia officials to find enough votes to overturn his defeat in the 2020 election. Boris Johnson survives vote of no confidence, but his future is in doubt. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has survived a vote of no confidence by his own party, but his future is still in doubt. The vote was triggered by a revolt by Conservative MPs who are unhappy with Johnson's leadership. Johnson won the vote by 211 votes to 148, but 41% of his own MPs voted against him. Sri Lanka's president declares state of emergency as protests continue. Sri Lanka's president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has declared a state of emergency as protests against the government's handling of the economic crisis continue. The protests have been ongoing for weeks, and have led to violence and the resignation of several ministers. Japan to release Fukushima plant's treated radioactive water to sea. Japan has decided to release treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. The decision has been met with opposition from local fishermen and residents, who are concerned about the potential impact on the environment. Hurricane Dorian makes landfall in the Bahamas as a Category 5 storm. Hurricane Dorian has made landfall in the Bahamas as a Category 5 storm, the strongest hurricane to hit the country in its history. The storm has caused widespread damage and is expected to move up the U.S. coast later this week. Pope Francis meets with Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill in an effort to end the war in Ukraine. Pope Francis has met with Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill in an effort to end the war in Ukraine. The meeting was held in a neutral location in Rome, and was the first time the two leaders had met since the start of the war. Children stranded 900 feet in the air after chair-lift cable snaps in Pakistan. A chair-lift cable snapped in Pakistan, stranding 11 children and a teacher 900 feet in the air. The children and teacher were rescued after a 3-hour operation. Kim Jong-un blasts irresponsible top officials for North Korea flood damage. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has blasted irresponsible top officials for the damage caused by recent floods in the country. The floods have killed dozens of people and displaced thousands. BRICS leaders meet in South Africa as the bloc weighs expansion. The leaders of the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are meeting in South Africa to discuss a range of issues, including the global economy and the war in Ukraine. The bloc is also considering expanding to include other countries, such as Argentina and Indonesia. Thailand's former leader Thaksin Shinawatra enters prison after returning from exile. Thailand's former Prime Minister, Thaksin Shinawatra, has entered prison after returning from exile. Thaksin was convicted of corruption in 2008 and sentenced to 2 years in prison. He fled the country before he could serve his sentence. Spain's FA chief says sorry after kissing player on the lips following their World Cup victory. The president of the Spanish Football Federation, Luis Rubiales, has apologized after kissing a player on the lips following Spain's victory in the Women's World Cup. The kiss was seen by many as inappropriate, and Rubiales has said that he regrets it. Wildfires rage in California, Oregon and Washington. Wildfires are raging in California, Oregon and Washington, destroying homes and businesses and forcing thousands of people to evacuate. The fires are the result of a combination of factors, including dry weather, high winds and heat waves. China's economy slows in second quarter. China's economy grew at its slowest pace in 2 years in the second quarter, as the country's zero-COVID policy weighed on activity. The economy grew by 0.4% in the second quarter, down from 4.8% in the first quarter. Sri Lanka's Prime Minister resigns after violent protests. Sri Lanka's Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, has resigned after violent protests over the country's economic crisis. Wickremesinghe's resignation came after he was attacked by protesters who stormed his office. NATO leaders to discuss expansion at summit in Madrid. NATO leaders will meet in Madrid this week to discuss the alliance's expansion in light of the war in Ukraine. The summit is also expected to address the issue of climate change and its impact on security. Iran nuclear talks resume in Vienna. Nuclear talks between Iran and world powers have resumed in Vienna. The talks are aimed at reviving the 2015 nuclear deal, which was abandoned by the Trump administration in 2018.